Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Gianni.
I never finished reading the Animorphs books as a kid, and I still haven't as an adult.
And I've never read them.
We can't tell you where we live.
But we can tell you that we want to revisit these books as adults and dive into what we would keep or change if we were to put it on TV.
Two friends, 50-something books. Welcome to morphinbuddies.
And then the music kicks in, and then people are just so ready.
Hi everyone, welcome back to your most mediocre podcast, morphinbuddies. With me, your host, Kacey Cisnowski. Alongside me, we have our second host, Mr. Gianni DeMaia.
What's up? Pew, 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 pew. That's my guns
pew.
when I enter the podcasting arena, you know what I mean?
I like that.
Shoot
I like
from
the pews.
Hips. They are...
I dig it.
But, you know... They're not harmful.
They
for show.
They are there.
Yeah,
just for show.
Yeah. I was looking for the
They're
word.
your
I was
prop
like,
guns.
what? It was like it's not harmful. Is what I went with. That's not what I was. It'll come to me.
They're your props.
Yeah. They're
there you go.
Shooting blanks, and then I was like, that sounds like a euphemism, and then we don't want to go there. So.
Wow, what an incredible start to this episode
You're catching me on a day where it's just all the cylinders are firing, and they're all firing slow.
This morning was insane for me, and I didn't sleep well last night. So I don't know if mercury is in Gatorade or what is happening today. But
it's the eclipse. The eclipse ruined us for the foreseeable future. So it's thrown me.
Delayed by a week.
Yeah, I know. I
mean?
felt totally fine last week, and then this whole week, it's Tuesday.
It suddenly
this
just
whole week though. It's just...
So thanks for joining us, everyone, or one single person. We are on book. What is this? 4?
4.
Yeah, we're on 4. The Message.
Yeah.
Was there a message in this book, Gianni?
There was. This was the first. I felt so stupid complaining about it last week, but I was like, the plot never has to do with the title of the story. And then this one was like, out the gate, they were like, there's a message. And you're like, oh, great. All right.
Fantastic. How did you feel about this book?
So general impression on the on the book here, without going into any spoiler territory. New favorite in the series. I said that last episode for the encounter. I think this one's better. It depends what you want out of it, of course. This was more geared towards like me specifically, whereas like I want the Animorphs to just like be fulfilling the promise of what I think it's sort of subliminally offering to an audience. That promise is, I want YA, I want Power Rangers-esque tone. They take it a little more seriously than I think like classic Power Rangers, but that's okay. I mean, you can do 2017 Power Rangers too. That's fine. I like that movie.
Excellent.
But I want, like all those tropey YA little touchstones. I want some awkward romantic tension. I want different experiences with the character dynamics and like kind of flipping certain people on their head. Maybe people that you thought were a douchebag before actually come up and say some kind of cool things this one.
Yeah.
And then it has also one of my favorite tropes, which is not just specific to YA, but actually, you know what movie actually does the trope that they use that I'm talking about very well is the Dungeons and Dragons movie, the new Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh my god. Yeah, I saw that in the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the paladin character, like finding that character. It's like, oh. I don't know. It's like just something about like the wizened sort of different perspective being introduced to the group dynamic. Someone a bit more capable in certain respects.
But also just as incapable in other respects.
Yeah, because he's still a child too. They're like, our alien character has to be YA also. But yeah, it really hit all of the tropes that I was particularly looking for. This one was super plot focused, which was mostly very successful, I think. And it does sacrifice a bit of character development in that regard, but the few bits of character development that we do get, I thought was actually progressing those people in kind of unique and interesting ways. It was fun to come into this and just have Cassie out the gate I'm kind of getting into a little bit of spoilers, but Cassie pretty much out the gate is like, yeah, I have a crush on Jake. And you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be like slow rolled through this whole series. And I was like, great.
I like him, like in italics, like.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I see what you're putting down,
like,
Cassie.
there we go. Yeah.
All right.
We're getting right to the meat of it. You know what I mean? The conversations with Marco, particularly the one-on-one with Cassie and Marco, really feels like it's progressing that character in a unique and interesting way. So I just think that, it's a bit sparse in the types of development that we're getting, but the stuff that it is giving us is unique and interesting, and actually it felt like this was the first book in the series thus far that really took a step forward.
Yes. Yes, it did.
And I'm excited about that. I want that momentum to kind of carry through. But what did you think of the message?
I felt like the same way. I really loved reading this book. I really liked some of the character beats in it, some of the growth, even though it's not quite as character focused as previous books have been. I really enjoyed the action. I really enjoyed the there's one part of this book where it gets like kind of harrowing, where you're just like, holy shit, oh my god, and it's like real consequences instead of, oh, we're going through all these battles and we're fine, and then suddenly you're not. And I liked that gravity being brought into the series now, because now it's clear like they're not invincible. Not to get into too much spoilers, but I really appreciated that they're like, okay, we actually have to take this a lot more seriously. I mean, they were taking it seriously before, but now they have a bigger idea of the scope of what is to come should they fail. And shit got real. So
definitely.
Yeah.
A couple of times shit got real.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Because it's interesting now, like having read 4 of the books, and you see, the progression very much in a procedural sort of format, and each of the sort of touchstone beats are all there. Obviously, they all are introduced the same way, but it's always going to have like some minor exciting set piece in the middle, and then like a more climatic set piece at the end.
Yeah.
And invariably, at the end one, they're always like, "We're gonna die," and then they don't.
Yeah, always, every time.
But it's fun now to like see how Applegate anticipates the procedural beats there and is able to still make them feel exciting. Yeah. Even though you invariably are going to be like, I have read this before. Not literally, but obviously you just feel like you totally understand where it's going. But the way she reinvigorates, reestablishes the stakes in it is always kind of exciting to see.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like stale. It doesn't feel like the same thing over and over, even though it is essentially almost the same thing over and over. She finds a way to kind of twist it in a different way that you're like, oh, interesting, okay. And it keeps you on your toes, and big fan of that. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. I'm a fan of the message. I think that the message is a very fun book.
All right, so let's get into the plot here. Do you want to start us off from the beginning? What does Cassie do that's really dumb? Really, really dumb in the very beginning of this book? Because what did they just say, like in the last book or the book before? Don't do any new morphs by yourself. What's the first thing she does in this book?
She immediately is like, oh, I should be a squirrel. That would be super fun.
When she's investigating animal deaths happening in her barn, she's like, it's probably a fox or a badger. So let me turn into a prey animal that a badger or a fox would definitely eat to see what's going on.
So random, and it was so she chooses a squirrel, immediately gets hunted, not just by the fox but also by Tobias,
almost gets eaten.
Finally, when she's able to like kind of come back to her faculties, because they establish many times throughout this book and many times throughout the series so far that like your first time morphing into a new animal is always going to be like sort of adjustment period between how your brain works, how the animal's brain inherently works, and so she finally gets control of her faculties long enough to like call out to Tobias for help, and he's like, "Oh,"
he's like, "Is that you?"
Like, what? Yeah. So she gets out of her morph sort of just in time, and then her dad walks in. She still has a tail, but thankfully he's like groggy from sleep.
So he doesn't really know.
The whole thing is like very cutesy, sort of YA adventure time stuff. And it's fun, but it completely brings into question the reliability and maturity level of our protagonist in this one. So fortunately, there's not too many bad decisions like that.
Just be a horse.
Yeah, just be a horse, or be, I don't know, anything.
Literally anything else.
Be anything with any capability at all would be totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then she sort of goes through the motions of the next like day or so, but more importantly, she's been talking about how she's been having these dreams lately, these very vivid dreams, which are not... in the way that they're described, it doesn't sound too dissimilar from the sort of nightmare dreams that they have after morphing. But this one feels particularly important because it's not related to any morphs. It is very vivid, though, in the sense that it feels like it's a sort of call, and she finds herself being pulled towards the ocean. She relays this to the group, and Tobias actually recounts something sort of similar. And all of them have sort of vague notion of what she might be talking about, but nothing concrete enough to actually go off of on any sort of lead until Jake comes with a tape.
A videotape.
This was like the most 90s, late 90s shit ever. He was like,
from the news last
I
night.
have recorded the news.
And I was like, oh my God, I remember doing this.
This cringe boy. And so he puts in the tape, and on the tape, someone has basically uncovered like some sort of artifact that washed up on shore. And
from the
Jake,
ocean,
upon seeing it, had immediately thought that it reminded him of things that were in the Andalite vessel when he went inside of the ship from the Andalite who gave them all their powers in the very first book. So, yeah, almost immediately when Cassie sees this, she passes out and has another very vivid dream, and, again, recounts it to the rest of the group. It seems very plausible now at this point that they are being called here by something. There are still questions remaining, of course. It's like, why is Cassie the one to see this the most vividly? Cassie and Tobias, really. And the working theory seems to be because she's the best at morphing, and because Tobias is actually stuck in a morph, that must have something to do with the actual Andalite abilities and how they're sort of registering them in themselves.
Right, so they're gonna go and explore the ocean at night to see if they can find anything else, but also because it's aired on the news, the Yeerks have also seen it, and they're like, we know that handwriting. I guess not the handwriting, but the language that was written on the piece of ship or whatever. And they're like, we're going to go look for it too, because there's probably an Andalite down there, and we're going to put a Yeerk in his brain. So they're both kind of like, who's going to get to it first, essentially, a little bit.
Right. So all of the controllers are there on the beach as well, with all these flashlights. They almost immediately see them, and then there's a sort of chase into the water. Everybody escapes by turning into fish. Fish that really can't breathe salt water. So I was just waiting for that to be like, they're going to die right here. But they're all dead. The way they describe it, they're like, it's just burning my gills. I'm like, I don't know, man.
I don't think that's how that works. I don't think that's how fish work.
Die, but I don't know. I guess I've never tried it. I'm not a fucking psychopath who just takes fish out of a freshwater river and throw them into the ocean.
You've never been a trout, Gianni? You've never been a trout in the ocean?
I've never been a trout myself, not yet, but it's on the bucket list for sure.
Also, I put a note in here. I wish I'd written more in this note. I don't remember what exactly happened, but I wrote, everyone is gaslighting Cassie. I think it's probably because she was like, oh, trout can't swim in salt water. They're freshwater fish. And everyone's like, nah, it'll be fine. And she's like, no, seriously, guys, it's not a good idea. And they're like, it'll be fine. I'm not entirely certain what exact line made me write that. But.
That sounds right to me because that kind of felt like most of the whole book because they would do shit like that and then constantly ask Cassie like, so what should we do next? And then she was like, what do you mean? What should we do next? Why do I have to be the one to decide this?
Well, also to be fair, I feel like out of all the people in the group, Cassie is the one that's going to get gaslit the most.
Oh, yeah. The nicest person always gets gaslit the most.
100%.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you have a group of friends right now, if you're the one who gets gaslit the most, I hate to break it to you, but you're also the nicest one.
You're the nicest one.
You're the nice one.
Congratulations.
If you are not, then you are not the nicest one. So,
excellent.
Cassie then is, kind of goes back into her regular rigmarole on like the farm or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's shoveling shit, literally shoveling shit. Jake comes by and it's all flirty McGurdy over here.
Oh,
these
holding hands.
Horn dogs.
She touches his cheek.
Horn dogs, dude.
She touches.
They can't help it.
They can't keep their hands off each other.
Dude, she's so fucking horny in this book. She says to him, she's like, no, she doesn't say to him. She says it to herself and to the audience, but she's like, yeah, I just love the way that he, like, smiles, because he smiles, like, a little bit slowly, like it doesn't belong on his face. And I'm like, what does that mean? That's so horny, dude.
Because, Gianni, he's such a hardened individual. He's such a hardened 10-year-old that like he's not meant to smile. He's solemn.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, he's so moody and brooding and oh my god. No, but the horniest though is I can't remember when it happens in the book, but there's the horniest moment ever. Cassie talks about how she like dresses or whatever, and she kind of describes herself dressing as sort of like a tomboy.
Yeah. And
says that there's a picture of her dressed like very casually
in overalls
on Jake's like desk.
Yeah.
And she said she was like, I would prefer if he like just had a picture of me in like a dress or something.
Yeah, she's like, I'd borrow a dress from Rachel.
He says he really likes it. And I was like, what? I was like, why does he have that?
I thought that was the cutest moment in this book because that actually says more about Jake. Because look, Cassie's like, I want to look nice for Jake. I want to be in a big, beautiful dress and I want to look really nice. And Jake is like, actually, I prefer you in the overalls. Which means that, like, he prefers her as herself rather than dressing up to be somebody else. And that's really nice, I think.
Totally adorable. Mm-hmm. However, if I had a crush on a girl and I had a picture of said girl anywhere in my like personal space, I would have to be waterboarded to ever tell her that I had that picture. You never give up your play,
That's
kid.
True.
You know what I mean? That's true horn dog behavior there.
Listen. The way she knows, okay, is this like his school desk or his desk at home? Because if it's his desk at home...
I have to reread it. Yeah, I have to reread it. I'm not sure. If it's his school desk, that's great. If it's his school desk, I would hate to know what he has in his bedroom. It's gotta be his bed desk.
But that means she's been in his bedroom with him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So...
That's
crazy.
Listen,
I'm just reading what's in front of me. Mm-hmm. And this is a horny book. So
this one is outrageous, dude. So he basically asks her what the plan is. She's kind of ruminating on different ways that they could go forward, right? Ends up landing on, let's go to the dolphin exhibit
At the zoo.
And get some dolphin morphs.
Yeah.
So all of the dolphins are named after characters from Friends.
Oh my god, I rolled my eyes so hard when I read that. They were like,
it's such a 90s thing.
This is Joey, this is Phoebe, this is Monica, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to kill myself.
It's funny though, like if this book had come out in 2024, you'd be like, oh, that's kitschy, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it came out in the height of Friends. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's so
and you
cringe.
know so many zoos did that. Every single zoo had a Monica and a Chandler.
For sure. So they get the dolphin morphs. Mm-hmm. They don't actually use them yet, though. They go to the ocean now.
But what does Cassie question about with getting the dolphin morphs?
Well, she's kind of... Well, I can't remember if it's at this point that she really has like a crisis of conscience about the whole thing. But really, she's questioning what the brain is going to be like because... Mm-hmm. Also, I had a question for you.
Yes.
I like to think of myself as the smartest dumb idiot on the world. On the world, I said. In the world.
On the world.
On the world. That was so appropriate. So, on the world, I feel like I am the smartest dumb idiot. And I am a dumb and know nothing about animals. I will say that as a disclaimer. Is it true that dolphins used to be land animals? That's like an actual working theory? Do you know?
That's a great question. I didn't look that up.
Because she just drops that lore, and I was like, really? That's a thing? Could you imagine a dolphin walking around? That would be crazy.
It's two back fins. Its back fins are just feet and waddling like a penguin.
Yeah. I imagine it has spectacles for some reason.
Oh, top hat, for sure. He's dressed like Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
The deceased Mr. Peanut. That's what he's dressed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, that's definitely something to look up. I'll have to look that up and get back to you after this, and then we'll have to answer that in the next episode.
Yeah, so there you go. That's called a teaser in the business, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
So if you're curious about dolphin facts, you can listen to the next episode. Yeah, we'll have all of the facts for you next episode. So, yeah, I would say, as an answer to your question, she's kind of curious about what the sort of mental state of the dolphin is going to be.
Yeah, like the morality. Like, she's like, they're super intelligent. They have the intelligence of like a 3-year-old. Is it right for us to be taking their DNA without their consent, essentially? Mm-hmm. Which I thought was a really interesting question. And yeah, it kind of does. She kind of ruminates on it a little bit, and then she's like, well, I mean, I guess like everyone else doesn't really care, so I'm just going to push it to the side and leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah, Applegate was like, should I? Nah, it's not really. The plot has to keep going, so
let's keep moving the plot.
Breeze passes. So they become dolphins pretty quickly. The sort of dolphin brain is like very weird to adjust to. Yeah. It is like a brain of a child, and how it's described in the book. They immediately want to just like play and have fun, and they're like racing each other. All of a sudden, they're using their echolocation powers, and they see something big off in the distance. Mm-hmm. They realize that it's a whale that's being attacked by sharks. Yes. So immediately, instincts kick in. They all rush over there. Cassie ends up injuring one of the sharks, and the blood from that shark ends up making the other sharks chase after that shark. Mm-hmm. The whale sort of thanks them, and then the whale proceeds to have a 10-minute-long conversation with Cassie. Basically just detailing his entire life and existence.
Yeah.
All of his kids and like the mothers of his kids that have all passed away over the years. Yeah. All of the battles that he's fought. Mm-hmm. But most importantly out of this, the whole reason that the whale really talks to them in the first place is because in this fight with the sharks, Marco is also injured.
Very injured. Like badly injured.
And I was assuming that this was what you were referring to with the stakes kind of ratcheting up, right? This was that moment.
Yeah, because none of them have been like gravely injured, and it's described that Marco's tail is almost completely chewed off of his body. Yeah. Essentially, like
we've all been there.
Yeah, you know, if a shark had bitten your legs and you lost your legs from below the knee. That's kind of where Marco is at right now, bleeding out in the ocean, starting to lose consciousness. And then everyone's freaking out, and they're all like, wait, if he morphs back, does he have legs? Like, we don't know. If he morphs back to dolphin, is he going to have his fins still? And they kind of come to the conclusion of like, well, he needs to morph back to human. So we think that because it's just DNA, he didn't get like the DNA of like a disabled dolphin. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so the DNA should repair itself as he morphs back into a human. And so Marco starts losing consciousness because he's losing so much blood, and everyone's like, morph back! And then the whale like lifts Marco up to the surface so he can safely morph and breathe air, which is kind of cool.
Just wild. Yeah. I mean, just the visual. You know, you're just chasing visual.
Just hanging out on a whale.
You're like, that's so cool, actually. But yeah.
But then he's fine.
So they were right.
Yeah, they were right.
Yeah, they were right. The DNA of Marco, and then shifting the DNA back into a dolphin, is still the DNA that he originally took from the dolphin.
So he still has his fins, still has his legs. He's good.
So this raises kind of interesting questions moving forward about, like, I mean, they're theoretically invulnerable if they could just time everything correctly. Like, that's kind of very interesting. And so so the whale is so impressed by this, but also so surprised because the whale has never seen one of the dolphins turn into a human being before. Go figure. So Cassie is able to inquire during this conversation about if the whale is aware of what they might be looking for, the thing that may have landed in the ocean that is maybe or maybe not sending the messages. And the whale actually is able to give pretty accurate description, I suppose, in whale of where this ship is. But they're out of time and they have to morph back and go home.
I do want to clarify, the whale's not like, hi, I'm a whale. Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm a whale.
No, not at all.
It's more...
I wish it was like that, but
that would be crazy. But the whale is more like this like deep wisdom. Like you came to like the tree of life and we're learning about all the questions of life and the answers. It's like there's some kind of deep reverence that this whale is able to communicate with them without using words. It's kind of like conveyed in pictures and ideas and feelings and sounds. And Cassie can't even really describe it that well. But she's like, it just like, I was kind of overwhelmed with my senses of how I could understand this whale, and I could never be able to explain it in a million years. But I could understand this whale. So it's like kind of a cool moment. But also, I kind of wish they had a whale sidekick that was just like, hey, where are you guys going today?
God, that would be so sick. But yes, they also, I would imagine, if I had to wager a guess, I would imagine that this is a scene that Applegate probably had written in dialogue very explicitly and then realized that it would make it all too long and then cut it down considerably and basically just has Cassie allude to what the conversation was like rather than direct reference to the actual dialogue of the whale. Probably a smart decision in the long run. We'll talk about it more maybe when we're talking about adapting this into a TV episode, because I think that I think it would have to require some changes.
For sure.
But
so
they go back home and are trying to concoct a plan. But before all that happens, Cassie stops by Marco's place, basically just to kind of check in on him and see how things are going.
Yeah.
And
it's really sad.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we
like
have a bunch of moody boys, but Marco is maybe the most interesting of the moody boys now. I mean, in a certain way.
Yeah, so Cassie goes to check on him. She's like, I've never really been to Marco's house before, but let me go knock on his door and see if he's okay. And so she knocks on the door and she hears from inside the house Marco talking to his dad. And Marco says, hey, Dad, someone's at the door. Please put on a bathrobe. And apparently his dad is sitting in front of the TV, but he's not really watching it. He's just kind of there. The book reminds us that Marco's mom passed away 2 years ago. She drowned and they never found her body, and his dad has never really gotten over it. So it's a lot of this subtle messaging of like, this is how Marco's life is. Now he's essentially like taking care of his dad because his dad isn't doing it for himself. Like his dad doesn't even care enough to put on clothing when someone's at the door and Marco has to remind him. So, kind of sad.
As a side note, it was nice though to have Marco's dad in here to give us a character that really related to me in a strong way.
Are you in a bathrobe right now, Gianni?
Uh-oh.
Caught.
No, I'm just Winnie the Pooh right here below the camera.
Oh, sick. That's awesome.
Just
That's
shirt,
awesome.
no pants.
Crop top, no pants.
I'm Donald Ducking it down here, dude. But yeah, they have a nice, interesting... Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think there's a European country, I think it's the Dutch or something. For a while, they banned Donald Duck because he wasn't wearing pants. They thought it was inappropriate. And I just think that's really funny.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah. So you would be banned, just FYI.
Well, listen. It's up to them to make that sort of declaration. Any press is good press, honestly, at the end of the day.
That's
so
true.
If we're getting banned in a country, I think that might make this more than just the most mid podcast on the internet. So so they have a really interesting conversation where, Marco is, I think, a little bit more of like an active participant in the group, and kind of here on moving forward, it becomes a bit more digestible. The types of jokes that he makes they're not just at the expense of the other people in the group. They're more so just him trying to alleviate the tension. And he is an emphatic participant otherwise, because as soon as they ask for a vote pretty much from everybody in this next scene, Marco's the first one to say yes.
Yeah.
Which is super fun to see that character progression as he's, kind of ingratiating himself with this group a little bit more and getting a bit more attached to what their ultimate goals are. They all decide, of course, Marco also brings the information that based on reports from the news, that there's a lot of different outlets talking about how there's some sort of something out in the water
or something
that they're going to go explore, and they theorize almost immediately, like, this has got to be controllers. We should be really on top of this. So the plan they come up with is they're going to fly as far as they can, because they think that this place out in the ocean is a bit too far out for them to just get there on their 2-hour time limit. So they're going to fly out as far as they can, then
as
turn
seagulls.
Then turn into the dolphins and get down there to this thing.
Yeah.
Plan pretty much goes off without a hitch.
Wait, hang on. Sorry. I've got a cat that just jumped on my lap, which is probably the jingle that you're hearing, and he was starting to make love to the microphone with his face.
All right.
The horniest
animorph.
little horniest animal.
Little animorph cameo right there.
Hi. Yes. So anyway, if you hear jingling, it's just his collar.
It's just the animorph
Actually,
that we have on
what?
the podcast as well.
Let me take that shit off real quick. Okay. No more jingle. You're naked.
Now who's really Donald Ducking it?
He's Donald Ducking for sure. For sure. Anyway, so they decide to morph as seagulls. They get a seagull morph. They fly over the ocean, and they decide to land on a container ship that I don't remember if they know where it's going to be. They just...
No clue.
They find it.
They pretty much lucked out there, and then they are able to morph into their little dolphin things, and they go on down, and through whatever hatch this is, they kind of describe it. I think the word, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong on this, but I think the word that she uses is enclosure, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Get through, and
they could see the buttons real well to like open it and press it with their noses and shit. I was just like, damn, what if like any sea creature had just bumped the buttons and had gotten in?
Nope. Not them.
They weren't smart enough. They're
not smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're like, they morph back into humans. They meet this Andalite who at first is a bit sort of cautious with them. Well,
he knocks them out, all of them, at once.
Yeah, which was crazy.
Done.
Because the way it was actually kind of hilarious the way it's described in the book too. Because Cassie's just like, she pretty much just walks in and then she's like, and then I saw black. And like reading it, you're like, wait, what?
It's like, oh my god, are you okay?
And you realize in retrospect that she was like knocked unconscious by some sort of like beam emitter thing. which, I don't know, could have come in handy in this final fight sequence. Not important.
Not important.
They're talking to this Andalite. Turns out this Andalite is the brother of our other Andalite friend who gave them all the powers.
Do you remember his name?
No.
Respect on his name, Gianni.
I literally couldn't tell you if I tried.
Prince Elfingor.
I can find it. Oh, Elfingor.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, totally. Elfingor, knew that the whole time. Yeah.
You were just testing me.
Didn't have to look at these notes, that's for sure. I can't even remember this new one's name. I just remember they call him Axe.
Oh my god.
But so yeah.
Aximili is Garuth Ish Molly.
That sounds so
Something
right.
like that.
That sounds completely
But they just call him
correct.
Axe. For sure.
Immediately too, which was so funny. Because
and Marco does that. He's like, "Hey Axe," and he's like, "I'm Aximili." He's like, "Hey Axe."
Yeah, nice. We got that out of the way. We already got your nickname
dominance.
and everything, bud. But yeah, he basically pledges allegiance to Prince Jake. Give me a break.
Oh my god. I knew you were going to hate that so much. Jake is now a prince, Gianni.
Even Jake hated it. I was like, at least this guy's on the same page.
Jake's like, please don't call me a prince. And he's like, yes, Prince Jake.
Yeah. At least it was funny. But...
yeah, it was funny. Axe brings an extra level of humor to these books that, like, Marco's like, I'm sarcastic and I'm so funny and witty. Yeah. And Axe is like, I'm innocent and kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Hi.
He just takes everything so serious. It's like just so deadpan and frank.
So they all say, hey, Axe, the Yeerks are after you. We got to get out of here. So let's all swim to the surface and you can come like talk with us and hang out and like whatever. Right before they decide to leave, Axe is like, hey, guess what? The Yeerks are going to destroy this entire planet. Any planet that they conquer, they turn it into what is common on their own home planet, which is very few shallow pools, and they eradicate all species that is not Yeerk related. And he's like, they're going to keep some food around for consumption for humans, but essentially, like, this whole planet's going to be destroyed. All the animals are going to be gone. All the grass is going to be gone. There's going to be cloudy skies. Like, essentially, what we're heading for, climate change, where everything is going to be destroyed. And that's kind of what's going to happen if the Yeerks win. Yeah. So Cassie is now like, oh my god, the destruction of animals?
Yeah.
No.
She really goes through it, and it's funny this whole like revelation happening because as I was reading it, I was like, well, yeah, that's just kind of what I assumed, right? But all of them react like, oh my god, never even crossed. But I was like, what did you think they were doing?
They're 10-year-olds, Gianni. They don't know.
They are not.
They're 10. There was a point in this book.
Horny. To be 10.
That's
horn balls walking around here.
I will accept 12 or 13. Because there is actually a point in this book where they're like, yeah, we're still a few years away from learning how to drive. We can assume safely that they are in America. Driving age in America is 16. They are younger than 16. So I would say
crazy.
Yeah.
They need to...
So
that is,
of course they're horny, Gianni.
Truly, truly bizarre.
Of course they're horny.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
anyway,
these infant children now become dolphins and then swim out.
Well, Axe morphs a shark.
Yeah, so the Andalite is like basically saying he picked up a morph from something or whatever, morphs into a shark.
And everyone's like, oh shit, you're a shark. And he's like, is that wrong?
They're like, no, it's fine. At a certain point, they're like swimming too, and he's like, I have a feeling that this morph can fight. Is this true?
It's like, yes.
And Cassie's like, yeah, buddy.
And he's like, wow, I've got a lot to learn. And I just love that attitude, dude. I love Axe.
Guy so much. I love this guy so much. He's great.
He's also like the equivalent of like the same age as them, which is nice. Yeah. He's not like some major warrior. He's still just a child, just like they are. So it's kind of cool that they are kind of in the same point in their lives, but wildly different experiences and knowledge and all those things. So yeah, essentially they're starting to swim. They're trying to swim to shore as fast as they can. Then Taxons start dropping into the water and start like,
yeah, lo and behold,
gross.
they can swim.
And they're disgusting. They're so gross. And so
I think at a certain point Cassie's able to like basically drive right through one of them and immediately is like, that was the grossest thing ever. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah,
which was really fun.
She bumped it with her nose, and then it pops like a soggy bag. How she described it, and I was like, that is so disgusting. And they're all like, ew, let's get out of here. And they're all trying to swim away. And then Axe is like, hey, we've used about 33% of our morph time. And everyone's like, hang on a second. You know how long we've been in morph? And he's like, yeah, I can keep track in my brain. And they're like, awesome. Cool. That solves our problem of worrying about 2 hours in morph. And he's like, all right, you've used approximately 33% of your time as of right now. And they're like, all right, we need to do the math. Please tell us in minutes and not percentages.
That time goes by quick as shit
Yeah.
too, because like I think it's literally like the next couple of pages he mentions it again. He's like 80% of the time is up. You're like, wait, what have we been doing?
Well, all they've been doing is swimming away, because now Visser 3 shows up to the scene, and he's this giant whoop 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 kind of sea monster that's huge.
It is called the, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but the Mardrut.
Sure. Yes, the Mardrut. I like that.
He's a Mardrut morph.
Mardrut. Which is like a big swimmy thing. And he wants to eat them, and so he's chasing them to tire them out. They're all like, they've been swimming for like an hour and a half. They're all wrecked, and they have to keep going, but they're nowhere near shore. And they're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Then we get the Cassie is like, oh, I'm thinking about my entire life just flashing before my eyes because I'm probably gonna die. They're all like, oh, we're all probably gonna die because we got to turn and fight and we're exhausted. And then we got another whale ex machina. Fantastic.
Yeah, so Cassie starts like calling out in dolphin to for help. And then all of these sperm whales come and just start ramming into Visser 3.
Yeah.
And she says outright that she's sure that they're helping them, but she's more confident that they're actually just helping to get rid of something in the ocean that just doesn't belong.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
I think is really interesting. I kind of like that twist a little bit because it's not really what you'd expect. They're like, you don't belong here.
Well, they're kind of introducing this element that like nature itself is going to sort of rebuke this as well, which is kind of cool. I think that's kind of fun to introduce, especially considering that how morphs are literally just taking on animal DNA. And it's actually this that kind of makes Cassie come full circle on her arc of morality being questioned with the dolphin thing, because she's talking with Jake after this whole experience where they almost died here and then they narrowly got away, and
they get on top of the whale and ride it to shore, which I think is kind of cool. They all sleep on the whale as it takes them back to shore.
She basically comes to the conclusion that this is something that they need as well, because now they're fighting for something larger than them, just themselves. It's also all of the sort of nature life as well, because most of these species are going to be eradicated if the Yeerks win. So they sort of have to do this, and I think it's Jake that outright says that I think the dolphins would be okay with what we're doing.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice.
They also, there is a certain point, actually 2 points of order that I just wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
One is that there's another funny moment, even in this, like, sort of cliched beat that has happened in all of the books thus far at the end, where they're like, we're all going to die. And then Jake's like, well, I'd rather just go out, fighting or whatever. And and Axe is like, that is spoken like a true Andalite. Prince Jake. And I'm like, this guy rocks.
Hell
He's
yeah.
so funny.
Axe is so down.
That was awesome. But then the other thing is, so before they went on this whole final mission, Cassie almost told Jake that she has a crush on him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then at the very end here, when they think they're going to die, she's like, Jake, I wanted to tell you. And he cuts her off and he's just like, I know, me too. And it's like, what?
He's pulling a Star Wars. Pulling a Star Wars.
But then they don't talk about it again.
Nope.
And I'm like...
Never comes back. At least not in this book. I don't remember if it comes back in later books. I'm sure it does at some point.
Well, yeah, there's no way that we're just going to let that go. But it's, how are we going to address it moving forward?
How angry would that make you if that was never mentioned ever again?
Oh, I would be livid. I would actually, I would go to the Applegate estate and I would say, fix it. I would say, you
fix
need to
this right now.
Write it back in, or write the rest of this bullshit out. I don't care.
But an epilogue of how they get together at the end and they're happy or whatever.
Oh God, yeah. And, there's gonna be a whole
amazing
breakup arc somewhere in like the book 30 or something. I bet.
Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Don't remember.
But yes, then the whole book ends as Cassie basically sneaks back into the dolphin enclosure and just kind of spends some time with them.
Oh wait, hang on. You missed a key plot point here that's gonna come back.
Oh, they hide. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Right.
So they bring Axe back with them because obviously he can't live in the bottom of the ocean anymore. Sorry, Axe. Your ass has got to be on land. And everyone's like, well, you can't like be an Andalite on land. Like you gotta be normal. And so he's like, do I have your consent? And everyone's like, I guess. And so then he's like, okay.
So nice that he asked for consent.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a really nice moment. Like, genuinely, I was like, she didn't have to put that in, but I'm really glad she did. And so Axe is like, do I have your consent? And then he, after everyone says yes, he touches everybody with his hands, one by one, and he acquires all of their DNA. And then he morphs himself into a human that's all of their DNA mixed together, which I was like, that is wild that he's able to do that. So now that begs the question, can Cassie be a horse dolphin? Don't know. But it'd be cool if she could.
It's so funny because I was thinking about this. Like before I was reading this book, I was like, I wonder if we'll ever get like a hybrid of some of these animals or something.
Yeah.
And then this, I did not expect the answer to be this soon, especially with how they've slow rolled literally every other thing. Yeah, this was insane. So now there's just like this Axe human version of all of them, which is like a little freaky and
they're all like he looks weirdly good looking with all of us together.
They're all just a bunch of fucking narcissists. They're just like, what? Fuck, we're so hot. Oh my god. Wow,
oh my god.
Fuck,
wow, I never realized.
Myself.
I never realized all of us combined. We're all fucking hot.
Yeah, it's so
Damn.
crazy. Wow. But yeah, so now he's gonna hide out. I think they said on like Cassie's family estate, right? Yeah, because that was where they decided to post him up, right?
Yeah, because Cassie's farm is like acres of land. It's a barn. There's a lot of animals around it. They have big fields, and they're like, it's kind of like the Andalite world where you're from, because the inside of his ship was like essentially a piece of the Andalite world inside a dome. Right. And they're like, it's similar enough. You could probably just run around in the field, keep a low profile, and hang out in the woods and morph whenever you need to. And Axe is like, I would enjoy this, please and thank you. Oh, and when he morphs human, didn't think about this. He doesn't know how to speak right. Like he's figuring out how to use his lips and his tongue because Andalites don't really have mouths. They just thought speak everything. So he's like, yes, I would like to go there. The air, go there. And he's going to do that in the rest of the books. Every time he's a human, he's going to be just repeating words and lengthening them and shortening them. And I think it's kind of cute, honestly. Like, he's having fun with his lips.
Yeah, he's like a broken speak and spell.
Yes!
Really
oh
fun.
My God, yes. Absolutely. So yeah, then that's how the book ends. Cassie goes to the zoo and swims with the dolphins, and she's like, "Hey, I'm one of you, but I'm also not one of you. What's up?" And they're like, "Cool,
So
okay." And that's the end of the book. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really fun. Lots of different twists and turns, and new information coming up, moving the plot forward, like we were talking about. As far as a TV episode, I don't know there's much that I would really cut out. I would maybe, like, when they're morphing seagulls and then they land on the ship and then they turn into dolphins and then they get off the ship, I would probably just be like, we're going seagulls, we're going to go in the water and then morph while we're in the water and then go into dolphins, instead of, like, putting that whole ship in the middle there. I didn't really see, like, a huge point with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can expedite a lot of this stuff. I think that the whale conversation, I would kind of do, I guess, similar to what Applegate did, but I would do it more so as, like, Cassie communicating with the rest of them, being like, I think it's trying to talk to us, and then her sort of asking the whale, I guess, but like we don't hear any of that.
Yeah,
I wonder any of that stuff.
I wonder if we could do like a montage of like flashing images, and then she's like, oh, this is that whale's life. Like, I know it's a little cliche, but like it would get the point across that they're communicating without like actually speaking.
I think that could be interesting. But really, I just want the whale to like actually take them to the location.
Yes.
Just run them right down there. We just get that boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Just sort of expedite some of that action a little bit. But yeah, I largely, I wouldn't change much, again, because this is such a plot-focused book. I don't think that it needs to really change a whole lot in order for an adaptation to take place. It is, I think, interesting. I don't know if I would do this in this, if we were doing, if we were the showrunners of the TV show, right? I don't know if I would do this idea in this episode necessarily, because maybe the whole like idea is that it's kind of like a surprise that it's an Andalite on this ship. But I think that like having the cold open be the sort of fight as it's described by Axe when he's sort of breaking down how his brother died.
Yeah.
I think that would be like a really neat and exciting sort of cold open, just to sort of set the tone for what this kind of episode is going to focus on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I think it's definitely the most science fiction heady thing we would have seen thus far. But I think that it would be the fitting point to really incorporate it into this story, because we've heard a little bit about this from Axe's brother's perspective. But actually getting to see it and getting to see his heroic sort of effort from the perspective of Axe, I think, would be warranted, especially if Axe is going to be consistent main character sort of moving forward, which I hope he is. But so I think those would be like my big ideas of like changes. But largely, I think the story is important to stay the same.
Yeah, I think the story stands really well on its own, and I really like that in between these little action sequences, we do have these tiny character moments, like with Marco or with Jake and Cassie, and that it does kind of come full circle at the end here. Part of me kind of wants to tie up the Cassie and Jake thing a little bit more at the end of like, we almost died. That was crazy. Yeah. Well, and, kind of just like this little, like, and this kind of also reminds people that they are essentially children. Like, they don't know how to talk about their feelings, really. But I feel like there's a lot that could be said without them actually saying it. Like, maybe dancing around it a little bit, maybe a look, a glance, maybe a nod, like Jake just, like, nods his head a little bit, like something where they both acknowledge what happened, but they're too scared to talk about it. I think that would be nice to kind of finish bringing this full circle. I do like that Cassie is kind of questioning, like, is it right for us to take the DNA from these intelligent animals? and how everyone else is like, well, this is just what we do now. You know, there's not much else we can do. And I do like the whole kind of, how the book kind of circles on that of like, nature is going to fight back, you know. With Earth, there's a lot of cycles. Things live, things die, things come back, things go away. And ultimately, at the end of the day, nature kind of wins on Earth. Like, even if you try to destroy it, even if stuff comes down, like at some point, grass is going to start growing again. You know, there's the water is going to clean itself. Nature does tend to help itself.
Godzilla will
come back
and fight.
Yeah, and then he'll go back in his water and he'll take a little nap and he'll be fine.
Nuclear snooze.
My God, what if they morphed a Godzilla? What if they find a Godzilla in the ocean?
Endgame, kid.
Holy
That's where
shit.
we're going.
If that happens at the end, I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna be so happy.
I'm still holding out hope that like we get to like book 40 or something, and they find a time machine and start getting dinosaurs, because that me just that just is the natural conclusion, is that they become dinosaurs. That has to be what we do. It's just
that would be amazing.
I mean, what otherwise? What are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Otherwise,
what are we doing?
This is all just a dream. This is all just a dream, and sad Tobias's head. And the end of the book, he's going to wake up. And it's all made up. And it never happened.
I will actually burn these books to the ground if that ends up being the way that this whole series ends.
I don't blame you. I would too. I'd be so upset. But I hope that's not the ending. I don't think that's what it is, because with the amount of care I feel like Applegate puts into these books about how much she does genuinely care about these children in the books, and you know, all the information that she's like essentially kind of like trying to teach lessons to kids and things like that. I feel like there's too much care in these for her to end it on like a terrible like Game of Thrones note. You know, Bran the King. No. Literally anybody else. Literally anyone else could have done it.
This is maybe a hot take that we get into another time, but I actually think that the ending of Game of Thrones is everybody ends in the correct place. It's the execution of it that is awful. Is maybe my hot take of the century, but I feel very strongly that having all of the Starks rule in all of this is spoilers for Game of Thrones, by the way, but you know, you've had enough time. But I actually think that having all of the Starks rule in all of the different places is correct. Like Jon Snow ruling north of the Wall, Arya ruling the sea, Sansa ruling Winterfell, and Bran ruling King's Landing. That actually feels very correct based on everything the Starks have gone through.
Well, folks,
it's the execution that sucks.
I am casting for a new co-host, just so you're aware, because literally a rock would have been better than Bran. Bran's like, I don't care. And it's like, we know you don't care. We've known for the last like 3 seasons. We know you don't give a shit. Anyway, I do like, that little note of like all the Starks ruling all the places. I think that's a good idea, but it sucks. Bran sucks.
No, it sucks because the way that they've characterized Bran now that he's Blue-Eye Raven is he's a doormat.
Why didn't they write more for him? We can't get into this. This is going to take like another hour. It angers me that they just did all this fantastic character work and then they just threw it away like it didn't matter.
Yeah, well, that's because George did a lot of fantastic character work.
Yes.
And then they were like, all right, well...
They were like,
we don't want to do any of that.
Viserys and his little birds? He doesn't have those anymore. Who cares? Well,
we don't want to do that stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, I can't get into that. Anyway, so, we're going to keep mostly everything. It flows really well. Really great book in the series. The next one, looking ahead, is The Predator. And it's got Marco on the front. I don't know if you looked at the cover, but I did not yet. This, let me see if I can show. Go look up the cover of The Predator.
All right, hold on.
This, you have to look at the smirk on Marco's face is painful. Because it looks like they tried to make him look cocky, but they didn't do it quite right.
What happened?
It's like he's winking, but it's not comfortable winking. Like,
oh no. This
the fist.
That image where he's like still mostly boy, but still a little bit of a
little gorilla.
Unreal, dude. Absolutely unreal.
Look at his pants and legs.
Also, they've been so explicit.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, also they've been so explicit at being like, clothes can't really come with you when you morph. You have to do like really like skin tight stuff and not at all shoes. And they were like, no, let's give him the most noticeable fucking shoes of all time, actually.
And they're not bursting open. Okay. But like,
oh my God.
Look at his proportions in that second morph, right? Look at his arms compared to his leg. His arms are down to his knees and his calves are nearly non-existent.
That is the one I cannot look away from, honestly.
I love his proportions. Tiny torso, long ass legs and arms. That's all you need.
Dude.
And that smirk kills me. I can't with that look on his face.
No, this is the one. You got to just Photoshop our faces over these guys here.
You got to make the same face.
Be our cover art.
You got to make the same face.
Oh, easy.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, if you had seen it, let me tell you, audience, if you had seen it, you would have been like, wow, that's really accurate.
Spot on, 90%. So what do you think is going to be the predator in this next book? What is Marco going to face that's going to be predator like?
So I don't know what's going to happen. I know what I want to happen. Mm-hmm. I want this book to just be a buddy cop comedy with Axe and Marco, mostly like total sideline adventure, and just have Marco cracking jokes and Axe taking them super literally.
Yes.
And Marco getting super frustrated with him until finally they're begrudgingly gonna work together and I don't know, kill somebody.
Hell yeah!
but that's what I want out of this next book.
Okay. There is something really good that we learn in this book. I remember this book specifically because I was like, oh, but I'm not gonna say what it was. But it definitely moves the plot forward, or it adds another interesting detail to the plot. It's going to be great.
All right.
I hope you love it. Part of me also hopes, because it's focusing on Marco and it's the predator, I kind of want the predator to be his dad's depression. And that's just what he's dealing with. The whole book is just him and his dad, and nothing happens.
Jesus Christ.
Look, not making fun of people with depression. Absolutely not. I've been through that multiple times in my life. I have depression and anxiety at times, and it's awful.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it because I think it would be funny and a useless book.
Yeah, so I'm agreeing, but not because I have depression, it's because I do want to bully people with depression. I think I have to shove those nerds to the ground. Oh yeah, what do you want? Your little bed, huh? You little nerd. Ruffle your hair. Give you a noogie.
You
little loser.
A little wedgie, perchance.
Yeah. I got no sympathy for you, punk.
Way to motivate depressive people out of bed, Gianni. You're such an inspiration.
That's how you get them. You know, you just beat them until they get up. Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So we will. I'm excited to read this one. I'm always excited to read the next one with you because, like, I'm so curious as to like your reactions and like how. Because I love the way you take apart film and you're able to kind of say it in like a digestible manner. And the way you're doing it with these books, I think, is really great and kind of adds a different perspective that like maybe I wouldn't have thought about, or maybe I was thinking about, but I had nobody to talk to about. And so I'm excited for your reaction. I'm jazzed.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I'm excited. These are always fun to do. So, yeah, I'm jazzed.
All right.
I can't wait to see what ape Marco gets up to.
Hell yeah. So number 5, we're coming for you. So that comes to the end of this episode of our podcast. Once again, you can email us. We do film these episodes in advance. So if anyone has emailed us and I haven't gotten to it yet, because I haven't posted the episode where we actually have the email up yet. Sorry, we're going to be a little delayed to your questions. But you know what? It's all good. I'll get to them. We'll probably have like one.
For sure.
one question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, one.
you know, be patient.
We'll make up the other 3. We'll pretend.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. This is Stacy.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah?
Actually, that like every time someone does like a Q&A or something, I'm like, I wonder how many of these are actual people and how many of them are just like, well, this was just something I wanted to talk about, so I'm just gonna write the question.
I'll just like read a question and be like,
Kyle at
Kyle from Minnesota says, Gianni, you sound incredibly charming and attractive, and I'm in love with you. Please tell me, how difficult is it to be this gorgeous? And I'll be like, oh, that one's made up, Gianni. You can put that to bed.
Yeah. I wrote that one, actually.
Gianni, why is this from your email address?
Yeah, she's actually just reading something I just sent her this morning. So.
That's the best. All right, so you can send us an email at morphinbuddies, morphinbuddies @gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and thanks for listening. I just released the intro episode online, so that's at the time of us filming, or I guess recording this, and we got 2 downloads. Holy shit, we got 2! Whoa. We got 2 downloads! Yes, Darude Sandstorm all over this. Old meme. We love it. And that is actually the appropriate time period. Didn't that come out in like 1997 or 95?
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Perfect.
I listened to it as a kid
That should be
all the time.
the soundtrack for these books.
That's the song that plays in my head whenever I'm doing it. Just about anything.
Every Visser 3 battle. So thanks for listening, and we will see your little ear holes back for the next episode of Morphin Buddies.
Give me those little ear holes.